Hi everyone, good morning. So, as Namana might have told you, we're gonna build a dApp today, and that dApp is called the NFT Minter dApp, right? So, what is an NFT? Probably all of you might have heard of that term, but what it actually is something called non-fungible token, and what that means is it has a unique property to it, right? So that it cannot be, duplicated, and all of its data, it's on a blockchain, right? So all of its metadata, it's stored on the blockchain, and that's why it's called an NFT. So what we're going to do is we're going to build an NFT minter app where you can all of you can mint your own NFTs. Let's start with opening our dPlat. You can see this button on the top right called get started. So when you click on this, you'll be redirected to our dPlat, which is our decentralized platform. And here you'll see that you'll have to log in with your socials, right? So when you click on this, you'll have to log in with your social ID. The last button is the documentation, right? So that is our developers documentation that we provide for you to read, and it has almost all of your queries written there, so you can go through this whenever you're facing any challenges, or you want to know something about the dPlat. Let's start building our dApp. For that, we'll create a new dApp. I'll name this dApp NFT Minter, and I'll create a new workspace. Suppose Satta Meghe Workshop. I'll just create this dApp, right? So when you click on this, it will create a dApp called NFT Minter for you, right? And you'll see a page something like this, right? So this is basically the canvas, or the page where you create your dApp. First step in our NFT Minter dApp will be building our UI, right? We're gonna build our UI. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the elements, and in elements, I'm going to drag and drop a form element, right? So just search a form element in your add element section, and you'll see this form element. Just drag and drop that into your canvas, right? So it'll look something like this, right? I'll just resize this, and this is like how you basically use all of the elements in your in our dplat, right? You just drag and drop any element that you want in your canvas, and it will show up. So as you can see, I just dragged and dropped uh, form element. Now I'm gonna use few input elements as well, right? So I'm gonna drag and drop three input elements, right? And as you can see, I just did one more. So just drag and drop. So two, and then the third one, right? Uh, so input elements, this is where like the user that is using your dApp will enter, whatever details they want in their dApp, in their NFT, right? And what we are going to use is we're going to use three input boxes. One is name, another one is the description, and the third is the image URL that they want to mint, right? So there'll be a name to your NFT, there'll be some description, and then there'll be the image that you want to mint. Right now, we are using the image URL part. You can also use file picker when you want to customize it in the future. Add some features. You can integrate the file picker option as well on your own. But right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use these three input boxes, and as you can see, when you click on one input box, there's some options on the right hand side, right? So there's something called content, and then there's something called style, right? So in the content section, you can see there's default value that you can give it, uh, or here in the label section, you'll see there's something called text, right? So in the text, you can change the input to whatever you want to name that text box or the input box basically. So I'll just call it name, input the name, right? So in that label section, when I entered input the name, you can see that the UI says input the name now, right? So similarly, I'll change these two as well. So I'll change this label to say input uh, the description, right? And similarly, for the third one, I'll say input the image URL. Right now, this is a very basic UI that you are creating right now. I'll even show you how you can customize your UI and do bunch of things. You can even change the name of the form as well. So instead of form, I'll call it NFT Minter, right? Now, as we can see, there's a style option here, right? Uh, Style option basically has bunch of options like you can change the font, right? You can make it enters system default, anything, right? So you can change the font, you can change the size as well. You can make it large, you can make it small. There's bunch of options here. So extra large, you can change sizes, you can change text color, you can make it different colors. You can do background color, border color, all of that, like text aligning, all of that. And then there's something called border width as well. So you can, add border widths and stuff like that, right? And you can do this for basically everything in our dPlat. So you can do this for all of the elements that are present in the dPlat. You can customize it to your liking. You can change the colors. You can add background images as well. So you can make very interactive UI as per your liking, right? Uh, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this button as well. You can do that as well, similarly to the way we did for text box. In the label section, you can change the name of the button as well. Say, I'll say C or not, mint your NFT, right? Something like that, right? So this is a very basic UI that I've created right now. As I told you, you can have like different things that you can do. I can even change the border color as well. So let's say I want it to be pink, Barbie, right? So pink color uh, background. You can do. You can even have like background images here as well. So in the bottom right, bottom in the style section, at the very bottom, you see that you can even put an image URL, right? Which basically becomes the background of this whole container or the form, right? So this is a very basic UI that we have created now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one more thing before moving on, which is I'm gonna rename these input boxes as well. So what I mean by that I'm gonna rename the whole input box name, which we're gonna use in the backend, right? In our working. So right now, as you can see, these input boxes are called input one, input two, and input three, right? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change these names as well. Okay. So what I'm what I'm, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change these names as well uh, to something of my liking, right? So that it's easier for me to use these input boxes, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rename this to demo name, and you can do this on. Okay, so I'm gonna show this here. When you click on this input box, right? When you click on this section with this settings button, when you click on this, it'll take you to the same options, right? Where you change the name of the input box here, right? On the bottom side, you change the name of the input box. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the name of the whole thing, right? So that it becomes the name of this whole input box, which is used in the backend, right? And as you can see in the on the top side, right, it's called input two, right? When you click on this, you can edit the name, right? You can rename this. And when I delete this, you can rename it to your liking. So I'll call it demo description. Similarly, I'll do this for the third input box, right? So on the top hand side, click on this, just rename it to suppose demo image, right? So as you can see, I've renamed these. Now they are called demo name. This is called demo description, and this is called demo image, right? Uh, as you can see, all of their names have been changed from input one, two, three to their respective names. And now it is easier for me to, remember them when I call them in the backend, right? And this is just for my, for my ease and your ease, so that you can do, because remembering input one, two, three, what is input one, what is input two is quite hard, right? So even when you code as well, you tend to change the name to whatever that function is doing, right? That is why we are doing this here as well. Let's quickly add our smart contract. And when you go on to the smart contracts field, right, you'll see the add smart contract. As I told you, you don't have to write your own. You can just integrate these, right? So when you click on this, you'll be taken to this library, right? In the library, you can add uh, these smart contracts, right? And as you can see, there's this simple NFT smart contract. Okay, just select this. Okay, for now, just select this. When you click on select, it will be installed to your dApp, right? Uh, as you can see, it says simple NFT one data source created. Okay, let's just uh, let's just keep it like that for now. And uh, as you can see, there's a button on the right hand side called new method. Okay, so what are methods? Uh, I'll explain this quickly. So think about methods as like queries, right? You query a data source or a database. Like suppose there's a MongoDB, and what you do is you query that database, right? So you say upload, and then you give it some detail, right? So upload this field, and then when you want to retrieve a data, say retrieve from this column or something like that. So that is like a query, right? You're querying the database. Similarly, think about this as querying a smart contract. Okay, so think about these as databases, and they're not actually databases, but just for your understanding, for now, think about them as databases, and you're querying a database, right? So when you click on a new method, you can add different methods or functions or queries or whatever you want to call them to, understand it. Just think about them as functions that carry out a specific task, uh, which they are coded to do, right? So as you can see, when you click on the new method, something like this pops up, right? uh, Here in this choose function, right? So when you click on this, a drop down menu opens, right? So when you click on this drop down menu, you'll see bunch of options that you can select, right? So there's approve, mint, save, transfer. What are these, right? So suppose I'm new to this platform and I have no clue what these do and what they are tend to do, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the library, right? And uh, as you can see, I use this contract, right? Simple NFT contract. So instead of selecting it, I'm just going to click on this, right? So when you click on this, you can read about this contract, right? You can read further details about the about this contract. So as you can see here, there's something called Mint, right? When you click on this, you can see what it does. So it says creates a specific NFT token for given metadata and assigns it to user or owner, right? Similarly, you can do that for all of these. So name, owner, You can read about this smart contract here. Click on the method, you'll see a drop down menu where you can choose which functionality you want to give to this function, right? So as you can see, when you click on that drop down, you'll see bunch of options, right, which you can select to for that particular function to carry out, right? So for us, we're gonna use the mint. Uh, Basically, we're gonna use the mint function right now in this page. So just select that mint uh, functionality. And when you select it, you'll see that it becomes the mint function, right? And you can even change the name of this as well. So you can change it to say mint so that it's easier for you to remember that this function has the mint functionality, right? Simple NFT smart contract. I created a new method, and that new method has the functionality of mint, right? So that is how you basically download a smart contract to your dApps, right? Uh, for now, this smart contract part is done, right? We have downloaded the smart contract. Now we have to integrate it to a UI, right? And to do that, what we have to do is uh, we have to take all of the data from those input boxes and we have to pass it to this field, right? So what is happening is it says that give me the data that you want to mint, right? And those data or the data that we want to mint is basically in these input boxes, right? Whatever the user is gonna input in the input box, that is the data that we want to take and mint it into an NFT, right? That is the basic premise. But there's a twist to it because, as you can see, there are three input boxes here. But in our mint function, there's only one input box. Or it basically means is that we can pass it one how do I say it, one uh, variable or one kind of or a singular data, right? So what we're gonna do is for this, as I told you, you can customize your workings, right? So we'll create a JS object for this. And what we're gonna do in this JS object is we're gonna take all of that data from those input boxes and we're gonna create a single list so that we can pass that single list to this field, right? Quickly add a JS object in your dApps, and I'll rename this as well. So as you can see, this is blue. I can rename this to say helper, right? I'll call this function helper. And what we're gonna do is now we're gonna go back to our documentation. As I told you, we opened this documentation in a new tab before. We're gonna go back here and we're going to copy this function's code, right? Right now there's not much time to write your own code. So what we have done is we have provided the code for you, right? You'll see something called get NFT data from widget. This is the code that you want to copy, and I'll just copy this here. You'll see a button where when you click it, you can quickly copy this code. So when you click this button, it copies the code for you, and then you can quickly paste it in your, dApps, right? You'll probably see that these are red, right? So we're gonna solve that issue as well. Uh, but before that, I'll quickly explain you what this code is doing, right? So we have created a function called get NFT data from widget. And in that function, what we are doing is we are creating a list, right? So it's a list called NFT data. And in that list, we have three fields, namely name, URI, and description, right? And these three these fields, basically these fields, right? What we are doing is we are basically passing the data that we are getting from that input field, right? So what you can see here is the name of the input field dot text, right? So what it means is it's getting the text which is present in that input box. So we can do demo. I've named it to demo name, right? So for me, it will be demo name dot text, right? So what it does, it basically gives the text which is present in that input box and it sends it here, right? So these are the run functions that we use in our dPlat, basically. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename these as well. So for me, the image is demo image and the description is demo description, right? So I'll delete all of this and it is demo description. So it should look something like this, right? Demo name dot text, demo image dot text, and demo description dot text. Basically, dot text is used wherever we are using an input box or a text box, and we are getting some data whichever the user has inputted uh, in that field. We want to take that data and pass it here. We do dot text, right? So it is the input box name dot text, right? And we've created this list. Now what we are doing is we are basically just returning it in a form of a string, right? So JSON.stringify, and we are returning that list. Okay. Now what we have to do is after creating this JavaScript code, right? JS code, we are basically what we're going to do is in our mint function, right? In our mint function, which is the smart contract function, you'll see this field, right? This field where we basically enter the data, or we basically send in the data that we want to mint, right? Here, what we're going to do is we're going to run this JavaScript code. And by that, what I mean is we are just going to basically run this code and get whatever the value this returns, this helper function returns in this field. And to do that, what we're going to do is this is a shortcut that everybody can use in our dPlat, which is you can put two curly braces, right? Always put two curly braces before writing any of the run functions, right? So when you do two curly braces, you'll see a bunch of options here, right? So the name of my JS object is helper. So I'll search for that. So say I'll search for helper. And then as you can see, there's in the second option, there's helper.getNFT data from widget and then the brackets, right? So I'm going to select this, and this is how you basically run a JS object, right? Uh, to run a JS object, you do the name of the JS object, which is helper, dot the name of the function that you want to run inside that JS object, and then a bracket, right? So that is how you run any JavaScript code in our dPlat. You do name of the JavaScript, which is helper, dot name of the function that you want to run, and then a bracket, right? So this runs this JavaScript inside this mint function, right? So we have created a JavaScript code and we have ran that code in this mint function to basically get the data from these fields, right? I know it's probably a bit complex, but just try to understand this, right? So what we have done is we have just taken all of the data from these input boxes, created a list out of it, and basically uh, pass that list to the mint function for it to get minted, right? Now, the last part is we have to run that mint function somewhere, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to run that mint function in this button. When you click on the button, right, it opens this field on the right hand side, right? When you click on the button, this field opens, right, the right hand side panel. And here, there's something called on click action, right? Just below label, there's something called on click action, and this is where you can choose whatever the functionality this button should run, or whatever the function it should run, something like that. Think about it like that, okay? And when you click on this, there'll be a drop down menu that opens. So it has bunch of options, right? So there's something called execute a query. There's something called execute a JS function, smart contract. So there are a bunch of options that you can choose from, right? Navigate to somewhere or show a message. But what we're going to use is this one, right? Execute a smart contract function because that's what we want to do. We want to execute the mint function that we have created, right? So when you click on this, you'll find your mint function that is already created, right? So when you select that, you'll see something like this now. Instead of no action, it says in curly brackets, it says mint.run, right? And that is how you run a Java. That is how you run a smart contract function. So I've explained you how you run a JavaScript code. It is JavaScript code name dot the function name bracket. Now, the way you run a smart contract function is the name of the smart contract function, which is mint in my case, dot run, right? So always it is dot run brackets with any of the function that you want to run, right? And that is our first page done. We have created input boxes. We have gotten their data. We have converted that data in form of a list. And then we basically pass that list to the function. And then we run that function in this button, right? So that is how we mint our NFT. Our first part is done. Now we move on to the second part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another page uh, here. So I'll add a new page, and in this new page, I'll uh, quickly build my UI again. So for that, I'm gonna again go on to the elements part, as you can see here, and I'll choose another form element and drag and drop it here. So it looks something like this. Right. Okay. Now I can change this to suppose say see your NFT, right? So I've changed to say see your NFT, right? And I'll delete this button because we again only need one button. So delete this and I'll increase the size of this button. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a one image element. So just search image. This is the element that I'm using, image. Okay. So just drag and drop it here. And I'll quickly increase the size of this as well. Right. So it should look something like this, a pretty basic UI with, with uh, where we showcase our, NFT that we have minted. Okay. We are not using name and description as of now. I'll show you how to do that as well. Uh, but for now, let's just showcase that NFT that we are minting before. Okay. So we've got the UI done, right? So whenever, okay, I'll just rename this button as well. So because I want to see your NFT. Okay. The user will come here. They will click on this button and their NFT should, be showcased there. Whatever they have minted or whatever they own, that NFT should be showcased in this image section. Okay. For that, what we're going to do is we have to use uh, two more smart contract functions, I would say. And those functions are okay. So the element part is done. We'll just close this tab, and then we're just gonna open the smart contracts again. And then the smart contracts, as you can see, your smart contract will already be present here, right? But there's no methods to it. Okay, so we're gonna create two new methods. Okay, uh, and when I click here, I'll create two new methods, namely, so first is the token URI, right? So the token URI method, and I'm going to rename this as well to token URI. Okay, and I've selected token URI, and another method which is called token count. Okay, this is the token count, right? Just add it now, and I explain it once I've added, right? So I've just renamed this to token count, right? So two functions, token count and token URI, right? Now what these functions do, okay? I'll explain it to you quickly. Token count basically keeps a count, like a index kind of thing, okay? To the NFTs that you mint, okay? So say there's you mint an NFT. So the first NFT will be one, and so on. So the second will be two, third will be three. It's like an index, or say a unique way to quickly get the data of that NFT. So it's like a counter to that NFT. Okay. And token URI is the function which basically returns all of the data for a particular token ID. Okay. Think about it like that. Token ID is nothing but number the number of that NFT. So suppose I want to get the data for fifth NFT. So the token ID will be five. Okay. So we're gonna basically put five here, and this function will return the data of the fifth NFT. The fifth NFT, whatever the data is present there, is gonna return me that. Or I want the data for eighth. So I'm just gonna put eight. So the thing is, the way to automate this part, right? Because we want to we don't want to, keep changing this every time. You don't want to pass it one, two, three manually. We're gonna write another JS object uh, for that. And here, I'm just gonna add another JS object, and I'm gonna rename this to helper two, right? And I'm just gonna delete this part again. So it looks something like this, right? Export default and something like this. Okay. Again, I'm going to go on to my documentation, right? And when you scroll down uh, to the very bottom, you'll see another function, right? Just before the button, you'll see this function called fetch token URI, right? It's just below this NFT display uh, screenshot. It's just below that. So I'm just gonna select or copy this code. So I'm just gonna copy this code and paste it on my JavaScript code. So you'll see this asynchronous here, right? Async. It basically means asynchronous, okay? And what that means is, uh, it basically means is uh, this function has a asynchronous nature, or basically we are waiting somewhere, okay? So as you can see, there's a await function here and here. So basically it means that we are uh, waiting for a function to run, and we are getting that data from that function, okay? So whatever that function has, we are running that function, and we are getting the data from that function itself. Okay. Now what we are doing is, first we are running this count token count function. Okay. So it says constant counter await token count. So I'm just gonna rename this to token count. Okay. Token count dot run. Right. So it's running this function and getting the token count, basically the latest token count. And then what we are doing is we are running this token URI function. Okay, so await token URI. And as you know that we have a field here, right? So this field, we want to automate that, remember? So that's why what we have done is we have run this function await token URI dot run. But here we need to pass some data, right? Whichever it's in the field, okay? So that is why we have passed this counter, right? And it is inside a variable called token ID. We have passed this as a variable called token ID. and the value of that token ID will be the counter. Okay, counter -1, right? And why we have done this -1, right? So basically, you know how lists work, right? So list in a list, the indexing is always zero. It starts with a zero and then it goes up. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the way the token counter works, it starts with a 1, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why we are doing a -1 so that we want to get to the correct indexing. So the token count starts at 1, but the NFT indexing starts at the 0. That's why we are doing a -1, right? So we are running this token URI function and passing this counter to it. And then these code right here, what it does, it basically gets the data from that token URI and converts it into a readable format, right? So this converts it into an object of a readable nature. And what we are doing is we are storing these values that we get from this token URI. So the store value function, what it does, it basically stores any value that we tell it into the cache of the dPlat. Basically, it stores it in the cache for the time for that session, basically. So what we are doing is we are saying await store value, and then we are storing the three input that we gave, right? So one was name. So we are doing URI JSON.name. Then in the image variable, we are storing the URI JSON URI, and the description, we are storing the description. So what it does, it stores three variables, and in these three variables, it's putting these three datas. Okay, which we have passed to the basically the token URI. So we are fetching the data from the blockchain and then we are storing it in our cache just to showcase it. Okay. So this all of this data that is coming to us, it is coming from the blockchain, right? Through this token URI function. Okay. Now, what we are doing here is we are passing some token ID variable to it, right? But the thing is, this function itself doesn't know that I'll be seeing a variable in the future. Okay, so it doesn't know that I'm gonna be seeing some variable in the JavaScript, right? So what we need to do is we'll have to tell this function, this token URI function, that there'll be some variable that you'll see in the future. Okay, and that is where this dot params comes in. Okay, that is how we use this one. Okay, so you can copy it as well if you get the spelling wrong. uh, at the very bottom, the last part, this is the code that we want to paste there. So this dot params dot token ID. Okay, just copy it for now and paste it in this token URI text field. Okay, so it should look something like this, right? And I'll explain what it means is this dot params basically tells this token URI function that you'll see a variable called token ID in the future, right? So you'll see this variable in the future, somewhere in the near future, which is this JavaScript code. So whenever this JavaScript code runs, this function is running, right? Token URI is being run. So it'll go to that function and it will see that, okay, I can accept this variable called token ID and whatever the value it's in there, right? And it'll take that value, it will run the function, and it will basically send or return the data, whichever is present there for that particular token ID, right? So that is why we are adding this here, this dot params dot token ID. Okay. Now that we have created all our smart contract functions and our JavaScript code, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just integrate our JavaScript code in this button. Okay. Now, why are we using the JavaScript code here, right? In the first page, we use the smart contract function, but in this second page, we are doing JavaScript code. Why is that? Because all our functioning, right? All our running and all our smart contract functioning is done by this smart, the JavaScript code itself. Okay. So as you can see that we are running the count and the token URI here itself, right? That's why we are basically running the JavaScript code here. Okay. So when you go onto the button, and again on the on click action thing, when you click here, you'll see that there's a option called execute a JS function, right? So when you click on this, you'll see the function that you created just now, which is helper2. And inside helper2, it's the fetch token URI that I've created, right? So I'll just select this. And now it says that it's running the helper2 uh, dot fetch token URI, right? So it's running that function now, correct? So what I've done is I've integrated my JavaScript code in my button now, and it says that it's running that JavaScript code in the button. Okay. Now the last part remaining is we'll have to showcase the image, right? And remember that we have stored that image in the cache of the dPlat. Now we just have to get that variable or the data from that cache and just showcase it here, right? So when I click on this image, you'll see that there's the data, and inside that data, there's a field called image, right? So here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send in the value that I wanna show, right? So again, two curly braces for the shortcut, and I'm gonna do dPlat, right? So that's where the cache is. So dPlat, this comes in dPlat dot the store function, because that's where we are storing. So in the store, uh, and the name of the variable. So the name of the variable is image, right? That is where we have sent the image, the value of the image. So dplat.store.image, right? And that's it. So whenever this button is clicked, that value will be stored in that image variable in the cache, and it will be displayed here. Okay. And that is it. That is how you create your basically you create your now what we're gonna do is we're gonna deploy our dApps, right? We're gonna all deploy our dApps to the blockchain. Okay. And for that you'll see this deploy button here, right? So when you click on this deploy button, all of you can see this pop up. And what you have to do is you have to select the smart contract that you want to deploy. In our case, right now, we have only used one. So just select one and choose Polygon and just click on deploy, right? Once you click on deploy, you will be asked to enter some random, string. This is basically like a uh, unique name to your contract. So I'll just put mint and then click on deploy. Once you click on deploy, your wallets will open and you'll be asked to approve a transaction, right? For those of you who don't have money, they can ask for funds, right? And to do that, you'll see a button called add funds. When you click on it, you'll see request zbyte tokens. uh, just click on that and then you can get 250 zbyte tokens to test out our application right now, because as of now we are on testnet. That's why we are providing free tokens to people to try out our application as of now. So once you have added your funds, you can again deploy this contract, and once you click on that, you'll be asked to approve a transaction, right? Something like this. So when you approve it, uh, this transaction will, or basically this smart contract will be deployed on the blockchain. If I doesn't strike out again. Okay, perfect. So it's deployed now. Just publish this dApp, and as you can see, I've published it here. I'll just quickly find uh, an image that I want to mint. So say basketball. I'll mint basketball. right? Uh, and then I'll go images. And then suppose I'll mint this. So just I don't take this, open this, and then take this one. This is not secure. We're taking this image, the basketball, this image orange, there. And then I'm gonna input this URL, and then I'm gonna click this button, say mint your NFT, right? My wallet opened, right? Because I have to pay whenever I'm writing on a blockchain, I need to pay some gas fee, right? That is why whenever you see that you are deploying a smart contract or you're transacting on a blockchain where you are writing any data on the blockchain, the wallet always opens and you'll have to pay a gas fee to do it. But whenever you are retrieving any data, there won't be any gas fee because retrieving doesn't cost any money. But whenever you're writing any data on the blockchain, it will require some money. Okay, so it has minted that NFT. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna see that it's what it has minted. Okay. Nice. Okay, so the basketball it's enlarged because the image is enlarged now. But as you can see, we have minted this basketball image, and this image is on blockchain, and we have retrieved that data from there. Now, quickly, I'm just going to show you one small feature which you guys don't have to follow, but I'm just going to quickly show it to you. So, I'll show you the use of name and description, right? Those are the two things that we didn't use, right? So, as you can see, I'll add two text box, right? Don't follow this step. I'll just showcase it to you, and then you can do it later. So I'll add text box here, and then I'm just gonna copy this and add another one. Uh, put it here, right? So this side and increase this size and speech. Okay, and then here I'm just gonna do dPlat name, and here I'm gonna do right? So now when I click on this button, I'll see all of the three input boxes that I've given it to. So it'll showcase the image plus the name plus the description, right? And that is how you can have multiple input boxes, and you can customize the JS code. You can customize the JS code on the second page as well, and you can have like uh, way more fields that you want, right? So you can add more features to it. You can make it even more intuitive with the UI. You can play around with this. So that is the simple NFT Minter dApp created on our dPlat.